if you could stop writing notes and proceed to look up.
If you could stop writing notes and look up, that would be great.
Thank you. All right.
God, control freak much? What do you want from me? Why am I here?
This is the Thrive With Us podcast, sponsored by Ralph's Crispy Crunchy Chicken.
Today's special, Nashville hot chicken.
We are going to go over today the power of doing hard things.
What?
Something Nicole and I are both very passionate about and are still trying to master. So
Every single damn day.
every day.
We really need a new song.
I
I'm
know
over
it.
this.
Me too. You should upload one.
I love, if you listen to Rich Roll's podcast, I love his starting. It's just so like serene.
So anywho, like I
We
said,
should start talking about our drinks. We always have different drinks every podcast episode. This is a theory coffee, pecan pie, latte, oat milk.
if you're going to talk about your drink, you need to know what the drink is.
Pecan pie.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about
Nick has a spindrift. Go ahead. This is my second coffee of the day, and the other one had 4 shots of espresso in it.
Nicole has a coffee addiction. It's very apparent at this point. Earlier, she Googled how many shots of espresso you could have in a day. So if that tells you anything.
Did you say espresso? Anyway, continue. This is serious.
This is a serious podcast with serious business. Anywho, so today we're going to be talking about, well, for one, welcome to the Thrive With Us podcast. I am Nick Jones.
I'm Nicole.
Jones. And we're going to be talking about the power of doing hard things today. Something you either get to choose, this is my opinion, you either get to choose to do hard things or the world gives you hard things you aren't prepared for them.
That's a good point.
So, and that's part of why I think it's so important. So to start
To
off,
strengthen that muscle, because life is just like nature. It's never easy. It'll throw hurricanes and tsunamis at you when you're not ready, when you're not expecting it.
this is true. To start off, I would say, I think we'll just go point to point and kind of talk them over, if you will. For me, drawing a blank. I have a lot of notes here, but sometimes I like to go off the top of my dome. So for me, it's huge in personal growth, right? Like I said, I think the biggest power for me in doing hard things, and when we talk about hard things, we're talking about things you don't want to do, right? I've yet to find a person that enjoys waking up and running or enjoys, and the thing about it is you think people who do it enjoy it, but they don't. That initial, you wake up, you turn over, it's specifically cold outside, it's lightly mistily raining.
Yeah, you have the option to sleep 1 more hour, or you could get up and cold plunge, go on a run, walk your dogs, do anything when it's cold outside and your bed is just so cozy and your dog's just sleeping right next to you, snuggled up.
I was painting a picture, but
I finished it. You're welcome.
You did. You did. Anywho, so what do you think about
All right, podcast over. I'm leaving.
I think we're going to have a problem with Nicole today because she's had so much coffee.
So for me, some of my mantras over the last couple of years have been using fear as the gas pedal, because fear is also something that's very uncomfortable, and we want to try everything possible to stay away from fear, and embracing discomfort. So those two things have really been my theme for the past couple of years. For those of you, I'm sure a lot of you know, I've done the 75 Hard Challenge several times for that exact reason. Because the more discomfort that you put yourself through, the more you grow, the more you really learn about yourself and the way your brain works and what we're capable of. I lived in the victim mindset for so long, where I didn't think I was capable of doing a lot because of whether it was my upbringing. Oh, I'm not an athlete. I wasn't born an athlete. I can't run. Oh, I've never been a runner. I'm very sedentary. And so the more that I put myself in those very uncomfortable states, the more I realize that we're just these balls of clay as human beings. We are so, it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm 32 now. I am the most active, fit person I've been throughout my entire 32 years of life. I used to be, it's like the older I get, the stronger I get. And it took me going through those heavy states of discomfort to really learn what I'm capable of doing.
Something you just said that I'm going to touch on that I think is hugely important is I am are probably the two most dangerous words in the English dictionary. I am not smart. I am fat. I am.
The labels.
They're dangerous, but they're also... okay, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to take that statement back up. I'm going to say I am is the two most powerful words in the English dictionary. They're not dangerous, and I'm going to tell you why. I am fat. I am not smart. For
Stupid.
me, I am an introvert. I am not a salesperson. I am a salesperson. I am fit. I am just as powerful, right? Some of that is so important to learn, and I think you touched on it, like going through 75 hard. I've done 75 hard once. Nicole's done it multiple times. She beat me.
I've done it twice. 2.5 times. I failed the second time. I had to start over like 20 days in because I accidentally ate chicken, and that was not on my nutrition plan.
I did it once, and it taught me so much about myself. It's for everyone out there, if you don't know what 75 hard is, it's like a little challenge put on by Andy Frisella. He's a super cool dude. I don't agree with everything he says, but I love him overall. And it's 2 45-minute workouts a day, and they can't be within 2 hours of each other, so you can't do an hour, 30-minute workout. You have to do 45 and then do another 45. You have to read 10 pages of a book, drink a gallon of water, stick to a diet.
No alcohol. One of the workouts has to be outside.
And boom. Mm-hmm. And boy, if I could recommend that, please, if you're listening, please, and you're like, man, I want to change, I don't know how, and you're very task oriented, do it. It seems impossible. How are you going to do 2 45-minute workouts? That was my hang up always. Oh my God. But one of them can be a walk. One of them can be...
It doesn't have to be strenuous. One could be like a yoga stretch exercise. It doesn't have to be powerlifting or running a marathon. It's just, you can make it as simple as you would like, but it's all about the consistency. Consistency is literally everything. And it might seem like consistency is literally the hardest thing out of everything. It's just being consistent over a long period of time. But I wanted to touch on the reason, because I think that a lot of us struggle with this, where the reason why I originally wanted to do 75 hard was because I was so fed up with myself. And I had all these big hopes and dreams. And we left a conference, a business/personal growth conference. And, you go there and you get pumped up, you drink the Kool-Aid, you're so motivated and so inspired. I get home from something like that, and I literally spend the whole weekend on the couch watching TV. And every day I'm like, okay, I'm going to finish this episode, then I'm going to get up and do something. And I just couldn't do it. And the whole weekend just went by, and I just was so disgusted with myself. Like, I have all these things. It's almost like you're in one of those dreams, and you're just like, you can't walk. The gravity's weighing you down, but only by your own self. And so someone else I think I already talked about this, someone else in the conference was doing it, Jessica Cochran, and she was posting about it. And then I'm like, I got to do that. I need that right now in my life, because I was just so fed up with me not taking action on my hopes and dreams and being a zombie in front of that damn TV, that I was like, I got to change something. And that was really what got me into it. And I started that was in 21. I started the journey of just learning about my mental state and how I work, my psyche, and all of it behind that. It was a great, great start to my journey.
For me, you touched on a couple of the reasons. Two of the biggest things that I think helped me with 75 hard was, and now it's going to be a whole 75 hard podcast, but
we do not get paid.
Yeah. Momentum. So for me, I can get overwhelmed with details before I start. And I think it goes for a lot of humans too. That's why intermittent fasting works. It's not because your body gets over, okay, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a nutritionist, but I'm just a realist and I think I know.
You're an
some
experiencer
things.
of life.
So in my opinion, intermittent fasting isn't some magic bullet that your metabolism restart. No, it's easy to follow. Like I don't eat between this, and then so weight loss always comes down to less calories in, you burn more calories than you take in, and that's what it does, right? So but 75 hard is so simple, there's like 5-6 rules, you follow it. And then for me, like I actually got COVID in the middle of it and I still did it. You remember that?
I think
Which
we
was
both got sick twice.
Maybe a mistake. Yeah.
I think that walking though, light walking is actually really, I mean, for me, it was hard in the moment, but I think for recovery, depending on how sick you are.
Yeah, don't know. The first couple days that I walked twice for 45 minutes on 75 hard, I can't remember how many. I used to walk like a little over 2 miles, but I got like less than a mile because I was just treading. But anywho, back to my point was overwhelm causes inaction, and that's what 75 hard gets away. There's
That's
no
a
overwhelm.
Really powerful statement.
I know I wrote it down.
It literally
that is the when you talk about being in bed and then you're like, oh man, I don't want to get up because overwhelm. Overwhelm is all those thoughts.
And then you keep putting it off. One more episode.
Exactly. Oh God, I've done that. Or like for me, it's like, yeah, I make these little rules in my head, like, oh, it 11:54, I'll move, and then it comes by and you just keep lying to yourself. And that's what I wrote down as far as the power of doing hard things, because that's what this is about. 75 hard is a tool for that, but getting yourself out of your comfort zone is so important in building that momentum. However you have to. I tell this to a lot of people. It's like, they'll see me running or whatever, and I'm not like, king of discipline or anything, but I run pretty regularly to get started. I couldn't run a mile, so I would walk. So you just got to do something consistently. And one other thing I wrote down was, that overwhelm is the source of your anxiety. And I think you can speak to this too.
Yes.
But it's like doing hard stuff. You get people in their life and they're like, if you're out there and you have heavy anxiety and you're like, oh my God, the life, blah, 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 I'll guarantee you with money back guarantee, you aren't pushing yourself because it gets rid of the anxiety. It does. Yes, it's hard. Yes, the initial is hard. But as soon as you start pushing yourself, the power of doing hard things, as soon as you start pushing yourself, it gets rid of that anxiety. That anxiety is built up from lying to yourself consistently.
Yeah, and even so back then too, with, I guess leading up to 75 hard and probably during the first time that I did it, momentum, even the start of your day, right? I remember, so we always have some sort of background music on at our house, whether it's the TV or music for our dogs, because especially back then when we used to live where we did, there was always people walking by and then the dogs would bark at literally every tiny noise that they heard. So we used to always have our TV on, right? And the first thing in the morning, if I noticed over the weekend, if the first thing I did was turn the TV on and put Roseanne on or something like that, that started a negative trend of momentum for the day, because then you kind of start passively watching it. And then all of a sudden the next thing you know, you're paralyzed on the couch. Now we literally don't watch TV whatsoever. The TV is never on. We have our Alexa playing music for the dogs, because I started recognizing that was a trap. That was a trap that I put myself in it, at the early part of the day if I turn the TV on. And then it was something that I actually liked. I used to love watching Roseanne or Friends or one of those shows, But yeah, that was, and so being on that journey, I just kind of slowly started noticing these little things, about myself and how to almost just fine tune my psyche. And I was going to say too, you were talking a little bit about nutrition and health and all that, losing weight. 75 hard again. I learned at that point that I had a heavy addiction to food. And I wrote down on here, we are all conditioned as a society to be as comfortable as possible. Since COVID,
they want you comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen the movie WALL-E? I'm sure a lot of people have seen the movie WALL-E.
You've beat me up about this for my.
It's like futuristic. WALL-E's a little robot that's trying to clean up the planet because we've just completely destroyed it. It's like a Pixar movie. There's people living up in space, and they're all in these chairs, and then they're all like heavier, overweight people. They're all in these chairs, and they just travel through this big spaceship, not having to get up out of their chair. They get everything handed to them. They they just get plopped in their bed or whatever. It's just like they don't have to move at all. And that's literally what's happening to us between DoorDash, Netflix. We don't even have to leave to go and rent a movie anymore. Even when movies are in the theater, we can rent them at home and watch them at home. DoorDash, literally right to our doorstep without having to step foot. Not even having to step 1 foot out of our house to get it. It's wild, right?
It is.
And I noticed that I developed a heavy addiction to not only like eating, but the chase to get the food on my app, right?
That's dopamine.
Yes, it was a dopamine addiction that I had connected with food.
The reward never matters. It's the path to the reward.
Yeah.
That's the fun part.
And when I was on 75 hard, I didn't realize it at the time, but I was eating healthy. I was being very strict about it, but I felt this uncontrollable urge. Like as soon as I'm done with 75 hard, I already had envisioned all the food I was going to eat, all the greasy fried, just tons of DoorDash. Like I would literally scroll through DoorDash and research what I was going to order as soon as I was done with 75 hard. And so I ended up losing like 40 pounds on 75 hard or 30 pounds. And then of course, instantly gained it right back because I didn't have the awareness on what was happening. And then I think right after that, we found the book Bright Line Eating, and she talked about the addiction to food and dopamine and all that. And then something I realized about you said something earlier about we're not actually like putting ourselves in that state of discomfort, right? Like I always hear people like, oh, I'm not losing weight, but then you see them like eating pizzas and like all these heavily just processed crappy food. And then
or they just don't move. There's so many different reasons.
And then like I do that too. Like,
Me
man,
too.
I feel like,
I mean, obviously I'm not the skinniest person ever,
but
I'm aware of it.
So on Brightline, I lost 40 pounds and I actually like understood, I've kept it off, right? I've understood the reason as to why I was having a really hard time. And I had this realization that like, I'll find myself like, oh, I'm not losing weight. I'm trying all these things. I'm working out. I'm eating right. But then when I was doing Brightline, like really strictly, I was so uncomfortable. I was fighting those urges, like those triggers at night in the evening. I was living in a heavy state of discomfort. And that's what it takes for change to happen. Right.
Yeah.
And I was like long drawn out, but that was my what I was trying to get at. My purpose was like, I was in that very heavy state of discomfort for me to be able to drop 40 pounds.
I mean, that's really all you got to say, really.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think that's, I know a lot of people in my life are like, oh, and then we start blaming outside influence. Oh, well, I'm different. I do this.
Yeah. And you do have an ailment that prevents you're something directly tied to your hormones, Well, I lost 35 pounds. Remember, you didn't believe me, but gained a little bit of it back. Not all of it, but I think that's a great lesson in like it's gonna be like when we say it, we're talking about the power of doing hard things. So don't underestimate that. Yes, it will be hard. Yeah.
I think that's really it, right?
Yeah.
Like, and don't a little. You posted something yesterday, and it was a bunch of cups, and there was one picture, and they were all full, right? Like 6 cups in a row, right? All full, and it said, "This is what people think consistency looks like." And then right under it, there was cups. One was full, one was like a quarter full, one was like an eighth full, one was a full one was half full, and then it said, "This is what consistency really is." And that's where I get lost in the sauce is like, I will end up, okay, yes, gonna lose weight, gonna do this. Cool. Yes. Full bore. I'm fucking at the gym for 2 hours, for a week.
Just grind it.
And then one day I don't feel right. I go there for 30 minutes, 15 minutes, and then I feel like that wasn't enough. And then I lose all of the momentum. I actually took a video on momentum after a run a long time ago that I watched myself occasionally. That's another, I'll just throw out another little thing you can do. Whenever I do something really hard, I like to take a video right after to myself, to my future self. When I don't want to run, I watch the video. I watch a video of myself telling me to do it. Very powerful. I have a whole section in my
Ooh, I have something to say on that. Yeah.
I have a whole section in my phone. The one thing I wanted to touch on about hard things is inevitably, whether you chose it or not, life is going to get hard, right? So you've seen this trend of people cold plunging. You've seen people running ultra marathons, just crazy lifting stuff. And what that creates is, so now when in life, inevitably when things get hard, you're going to be prepared for it. Recently, for me, and it's not physically, sometimes it's the mental side of it. When you get in cold water and you're willing to do that in the morning, and then you go the rest of your day, like everything's pretty easy at that point. For me, I fucking hate cold water. I don't cold plunge like regularly at all. Just don't let me get that wrong. I'm just speaking on it, but even running, like there's not a time that I can remember maybe once that I actually wanted to run, but inevitably your life is going to get difficult, right? And recently for me, I think everyone has had difficulties in their life, but recently for me, my mom ended up in the hospital for having a minor heart attack, and I could just see the panic in everyone, for me, I think a lot about stuff like that. And when we say do hard things, sometimes it's a mental hard thing. I think a lot about death. Every day when I wake up, I think about dying because it helps me align everything. I tell everyone that, and I don't want it to sound too sadistic because it's not like this negative thing, really. It's actually really positive because realistically, we are all going to die. So
we're not, immortal. We are all humans.
It's called, I just learned this word. It's called mortality sadience. And it's your contemplation of your morality and your understanding of it. I have a deep understanding of that. As soon as I got that, things got real clear for me. Do I want to die? No, I don't. Fair. Am I afraid to die? Not really. I used to be terrified, but am I afraid for other people to die? Yeah, but I've prepared mentally enough as I can, We have dogs. They're all going to die in my lifetime. It's not going to let me
That's
stopped.
The one thing that we're not ever going to be able to avoid, right, is death. Like, we're all going to die.
Death and taxes.
Yeah.
You can avoid taxes.
You can
some
definitely
otherwise,
avoid taxes.
No, but and so back to just to finish out my point, you can either do hard stuff or it can be exponentially hard when life makes you do hard stuff and you aren't prepared. Right? You gonna prepare for the test that's gonna come? You know it's coming, or are you just gonna go for it? And sometimes you can go for it. Plenty of stuff in my life I'm not prepared for everything. I'm sure, but I think it's so as humans, what you said is so true. We try to avoid discomfort at all costs. Someone dies, we cover them with a blanket, put them in a little room. No one sees them, right? Like,
or
we don't want to see
even when
death.
we age, we put people in old folks' homes.
Or when we age, we decide to do surgery so we don't look old.
Exactly.
Oh my God, don't get old. Oh, Jesus.
Let's hide that.
That's a whole other topic, but
even no, we really avoid it. Like,
that's avoiding the hard stuff.
Yeah.
We do not want to feel any discomfort. And what you said about Wall-E,
embrace the wrinkles.
Seriously, man. But what you said about Wall-E is I've never seen it, but I have a memory of my grandma, who my dad's side, my other grandma is still alive, but she was like a really special woman. I'm going to cry, but I'm going to try not to. We always get through these, and I fucking always want to cry. But she was a special person. I was young. I didn't have deep conversations with her, but I just know that, and that's weird. But I remember her just living her life in a recliner. That is all I remember. I remember one specific time that we like went somewhere with my grandma. She literally, I felt like she died in a recliner. Literally, I think it killed her. And for me, that's a life lesson for me, right? Like I could look at that and be sad, which I obviously am. Sometimes I wish she was around because I feel like her wisdom would help me a lot, but it does in other ways. But like that right there is such a lesson to me. I think about it all the time when I'm doing hard stuff. You got to have some stuff because it ain't going to be easy.
Yeah. And like on that note, and again, like you said earlier, you're not a doctor. I'm not a doctor, right? All I can do is share my experience with, I feel like I've been through a lot of this where I was going to say I struggle with depression and anxiety a lot. And what I found.
You mean your life isn't perfect?
Yeah, I'm a human being. I think we all struggle with it, but it's, some of us struggle harder and deeper, and then some of us have better tools to be able to get through it, right? And what I found is the less I move my body, the more depressed I get.
It's like a little Venn diagram.
Yeah, it's
and that's what I was talking about with anxiety, right?
And there are like scientific, like when you run, like
that's been
the
proven
endorphins
everywhere.
and all the chemicals that are rushing through your body when you walk, when you exercise, any sort of cardio,
I don't think that's even anymore. I don't think that's even an argument.
A question.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. Mm-hmm. So, and that's something also, like the more I put myself through these hard things, the more I'm literally just like my own science experiment, and I'm just doing different things to test to see like how can I keep myself from going down that dark hole of depression and anxiety. That's really my life's purpose. And then how I can, share all of that wisdom with everyone and shine that light, but that's exactly why like running, I never ran. I don't have a runner's body. I weigh 160 pounds. I got
Me
things.
neither,
I got
bro.
things jiggling. It hurt. It's very
30
uncomfortable.
plus pounds. Like, hey, yeah.
I never did sports in school. But running it's very uncomfortable. It's so hard to do, like to get your mind to be like, okay, I'm going to go on a run, but it's so rewarding. It is so rewarding. You learn when you're running and you tell yourself, okay, and it's not like you have to push yourself and kill yourself, right? But like, even when you're running a really slow pace and you're like, your brain is like, stop running right now. You're uncomfortable. Stop. And you're like, no, I told myself I was going to show up and I was going to run 15 to 20 minute pace. Doesn't matter. Super slow, but I'm not going to stop. And like, then you do it, you stick to it, you do it, and you feel it's so rewarding. You learn that you can do these things, that your mind, that pain body, that negative voice in your head has always told you couldn't do.
I remember the first time. So I decided after 75 hard, I decided I was going to run/walk a mile a day. And then, so I did that for a little bit. Because again, the simplicity is key in everything, in business too. If you have a business out there, whatever simple always gets done, complicated gets lost. So
I like
like I decided 1 mile a day, easy, whatever, walk, run, did that, boom, and then the turkey trot came around and it was 6 miles, and I'll remember that for the rest of my life.
Me too.
Because I hadn't. So same as Nicole, man. I didn't do. I mean, if you guys listen to my story, God, my nose is itchy. I was sitting around. I didn't do shit. I was I used to ride my bike a little bit, but I was not an athlete. I wasn't a runner. I did track once in like 5th grade because somebody was
You were a skater
sick.
boy.
That's true. But I mean, I wasn't like obese or anything, but I just never ran, right? And like, so we signed up for this turkey trot. And I didn't really think much about it. And then we did it. And I remember I set up, so I'm 5'8" and over 240 pounds at that time. And like, I got these Nike Vapor Flies. I'm like, all right, I like to do things all the way. So I'm like, I'm going to get the best shoes. I'm going to do that. So I got those. I got good socks. I like darn tough socks. But, God, my nose. Sorry. And I got it all set up. I had like all my running gear. I had this shirt, like the wicking shirt and everything. And then we got going. And it's around the river trail in our town. There's this big river trail that goes, they had this
All
6
throughout
mile
town.
loop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I didn't have much. I'm like, I wasn't really that nervous for some reason, but I just thought I was going to walk a lot. And I just did it all. I just ran the whole time. I didn't stop once. And when we got done, I hurt a lot, but holy shit, it raised the bar. I was just like, wow, I can run 6 miles. And I was not a runner at that point. I didn't, people always limit themselves. I hate that shit. I'll be, and then that's kind of started my running journey, just to kind of finish the story. And then last year, I got up to 20, I think I just read 25 miles in 1 week was the highest I ever did. I was doing a lot of like training. I was training for a half marathon, but I never actually did one, which is a whole other story. But kind of died off on the
There's one
running.
in a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's true. We'll get back on here. I'll be like, yep, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
So, moral of the story is whatever the I ams are so limiting, fuck, throw them out. The I am nots. The I cans are good. But it was crazy. I never thought I could do that. And I'll always remember that for the rest of my life when I got done. And up until that point, like I had done some big mountain bike rides and some big mountain bike races. And I'm not going to lie, they were harder than that by a lot. But that even goes to show you, I could have never thought I ran 6 miles, yeah, huge needle mover for me as far as like what you can do. And then if you're going to go through life, and for me, we were talking about this the other day. I think me and Nicole are both addicted to growing. Like we want to grow. I don't want to not just in business, but myself. And
yeah, it's like my hobby. I love going to personal growth conferences, and I just love putting myself in heavy states of discomfort because I know it just brings so much growth. Mm-hmm. And we're just, like I said, we're just these moldable creatures.
And all that crap you come up with in your brain that like is the reasons why you can, it's all bullshit, because when you do it, you find out you were wrong. And I don't know how many times we have to learn that lesson to grow it, but it's just like any other muscle. But get out there and do hard shit.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, I think this is a whole other conversation, but if you don't have a purpose or a vision or a why, that's a whole other thing, whole other topic. But when you have a very strong purpose, vision, why, somewhere that you want to be, it's inevitable. You have to do the hard things to get there. You have to. You can't avoid it. I think that we all can get stuck in that state of, and I think that this just goes back, right? We used to, as humans, used to be, and even in different countries, we used to be in these heavy states of discomfort where we would have to like run for our life to be safe, And we finally got to a point where we don't have to do that, and it's beautiful. But now we kind of like, we're not living our life to like what it's capable of, like we're not living with purpose.
We've all heard that anxiety is at the highest it's ever been. Depression's been at the highest it's ever been. Why do you think that's true?
Yeah.
Why? Because we go work 8 to 5, get home. First thing we got to do is hit our recliner and drink a beer. Like, fuck. You know how unhappy you're going to be doing that? And if anyone tells me they're happy doing that, bullshit. Full happiness. I honestly think they just don't know what happiness is. That stuff is so harmful. And now I'm no saint. I don't get home and run a marathon every day, but I do try to put myself out of my comfort zone regularly, and it makes me a much happier person. And then I still struggle. So I can only imagine, choo-choo train, I can only imagine what people who do, like the typical like American lifestyle, quote unquote, like that's crazy. I can't even imagine just like dying to get home to just do nothing. Like, holy crap, your brain is made for more than that. It's nuts. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh, the same person is on all the medications. And I have nothing against medication. I've personally taken medication for mental problems. That's not what I'm saying. So let's clear the air on that, because people love to, jump on what you say. Oh, I have this mental illness. Great. That's awesome. I challenge you to try things that aren't pills first because it is so powerful, like you said.
That's actually something they're doing in other countries where that is the first like treatment for people with depression and anxiety is they will actually get prescribed to like go exercise, go to the gym, you know.
And it's funny because
over medication.
You know what? That is so awesome too. Well, I never thought about that. So because for me, right, like I speak to myself when I speak out like this. It's like I can get in. I mean, you know me more than anyone, but let's just clear the air. I can get really depressed, probably worse. The highest highs and the lowest lows. I have a personality of 1,000 or negative 1,000. Don't spend a lot of time in between, which sucks. And
you're on a medication that like creates that a lot too.
Yeah. Yes. That is true. But and everyone who takes, I take some medication for an ailment I have, which maybe we'll get into another episode.
That has side effects.
But it's known to make you depressed and upset and
highs, low lows,
gain weight. Yeah, literally says on the bottle, "Don't gamble because it can make you gamble." Fucking random. But anywho, you know, like when I heard my mom's in the doctor, right? She just had a heart attack. She got a couple of, should have finished that story. She got a couple of heart stents. She's fine now, totally. I mean, other than just a lot of medications, but one of the nurses goes, you know, a vegan diet's great for your heart. And like, she just remembered that because this person that's like just a normal person, like shout out to all the nurses out there because I would never do it. But like, they're no different than... They've studied health, so they have some form of credibility, right? It's like I tell you about your car, you're probably going to listen more than your cousin Jimmy, but prescribing, to get back to what you said, like if a doctor could prescribe that, oh my God, that would be so helpful because people will listen to that crap. And the first thing they do, when I went to the doctor and I was having some mental health issues, he threw like 4 medications at me. Oh, just try this one. If this one doesn't work,
add on this
you gotta,
one.
Yeah, you got to add this one and then these, but you got to slowly taper them off. So I took one of them. I can't remember the name. It was an SSRI. And I just couldn't feel anything, like good or bad. I'm like, wow, is this what our society is going through? And this is not to like hate on people who take medicine. Please God, don't take that.
This is like, only your experience you're sharing from what you've
exactly.
been through. Yeah.
And I it's just, it would be so powerful if they would be like, yeah, let's exercise 30 minutes a day first before we do that. Because that for me fixes it.
And change what we put in our bodies.
Even me, if a doctor told me that, I might be way more inclined. Because for some reason they're the end all beat all of, I mean, I get we have to have that.
And the connections between our gut and our brain that we really don't ever get taught.
There's a lot of studies on that. I'm not a scientist or play one or look at
Andrew Huberman.
Yeah.
Listen to his podcast.
Yeah, you know, you got to be careful because there's both sides of every story. But I do know for sure 100% that when you exercise, it will not get rid of all your anxiety, but it will fix a ton of it. I think it would help a lot.
It's a tool, right? That's what it is for me. It is a tool that I have in my toolbox to keep me from going dark, really dark.
But it's way easier to just take
and like medication. Honestly, like you say, you know, it's not like I wake up and I'm like, I want to go run. Honestly, because I know how effective it is with my mental health, I actually do have those moments where I'm like, I need to go run 5 miles because things are slipping and things are going dark for me and I need to use this tool. So I will go out and run the shit out of myself.
I mean, obviously there's some that, okay, I got a little graphic.
But it is. It's just a tool, right? It's not the end all be all. It's a tool, one of the tools that you can add to your toolbox when you are going through really dark times.
Yeah, and it's just so powerful as far as all of it. Weight, medication. It's like, yeah, I should be speaking to myself. A couple of things that I wrote down that I think are super helpful on this subject. I don't know if we're kind of in and out. Try to make it a little less long. I think I'm gonna start doing this on all the podcasts, but I'm gonna do a book recommendation. So I have 2 that pertain to this subject. One was recommended to me by one of our managers, and I can't speak on it enough because I freaking love it. But I did. It's probably recency bias because I did just read it. But and when
Well,
I
that's
say
okay.
read,
It's relevant
when
to
I
what
say
you're going
read,
through.
for one, okay, highly recommend everyone quote unquote read. I listen to books. I haven't read a book in a long time, but
Experiencing the book.
expand your mind. If you're not, you're missing out on a lot. It's Atomic Habits. It's called Atomic Habits. I think it's by James Clear. And then I have a secondary one just because I always have, I read, listen.
I like that. I think we should
lot.
both have a book recommendation because
Me
I have
too.
one
I'm
too.
going to have two. But the other one, so don't cut me off.
Hurry up.
I can see you. The other one is called The Comfort Crisis. Oh my God, that book explains everything we're talking about in fairly good detail with a lot more actual data. Because Nicole and I just know our objective
Whatever.
data that we go through life with, which is, I mean, part of the experience, right? If you can't trust that, we wouldn't be here. You know, one guy learns how to build a building, teaches another guy, hey, don't do this, do that. I think we as a society, sorry, I'm going to go off on a little tangent, but we as a society are all about these little scientific papers and this and that and the other. And it's very helpful. Obviously, it's modern medicine, but there's a lot to be said about people's experiences in
That's
life.
huge.
That's how a lot of cars get like, hey, an old guy comes near me, you know, oh, hey, when you do that, make sure to Loctite that bolt because I've had it come loose 15 times. How do we learn that? Had to come loose, you know?
Learn
like,
from each other.
Yep, exactly. So
That's
but
the power of
it's
reading
also
books.
dangerous for sure because some people are here to take your money on their quote unquote experience, but
Well, that's what reviews are for.
yeah
My
those
book
can't be curated.
is, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him, David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. I'm about to read his second book, but I just saw him in person over the weekend. He is someone that's very extreme, and he's very like, he seems like he's someone that's like huge ego and,
Big hard
very
ass.
masculine. Yeah, hard ass. But he has a really powerful story of his upbringing and everything he's gone through and the reason why he is the way he is today, because he has found that it's been the most effective, process for him to stay out of those dark times. And he's so inspiring to me because he's one of those people that just, it's sometimes I feel like the extremes are really like bring so much perspective to us, because I'm not going to live my life like David Goggins, or I'm going to tie myself up and throw myself in the lake and try to survive. Like, I'm not going to do crazy extreme things, but to see and hear him, and like, he's just a normal person. He went through some shitty times when he was a young kid. He went through, he was a Navy SEAL, and it's just hearing his journey and like him going through the phases where he wanted to give up. He did give up. He quit the Navy SEAL training, then he went back in. Just like you said, the cup. This is what consistency really is,
Yeah, David Goggins is super cool. His message can get lost because of his delivery, but
His
I think
big quote is, I'm not finished when I'm tired. I'm finished when I'm done.
Nice. Exactly. He's
Stay
a badass.
uncomfortable.
Stay hard. Who's going to carry the boats? Yeah, I love David Goggins. And I think one thing that you'll notice, Nicole and I think the world could be better at, is taking what you want and leaving what you don't, right? I don't believe in everything David Goggins says.
Exactly.
I don't believe in everything James Clear says in Atomic Habits. I don't believe in everything. But there's so much good information. I think we as a society leave out the good information because, they said this. So keep an open mind, be self-aware, and do hard shit.
And then just experience it. Like I said, like I take what fits, right, with all the things that I read and absorb, and then I just see how it works for me and what doesn't work for me, and then really just observe things, like when you go on a run and the way you feel afterwards, or the way you feel when you eat a really greasy processed meal, or compared to like a healthy nutritious meal. Like, start really treating yourself like a little experiment, and I feel like
everyone's different. We
are all very different. I was just talking about nutrition with someone and how like I stopped eating meat and my hormones went extra. Like, I've never had the most normal hormones right now than I have, in my entire life. Someone said the same thing about them when they went gluten free. and I eat a lot of gluten and my hormones are normal. So it's like we all work so differently. You know, we're all so similar, but also different at the same time.
I like that. Anywho, thanks for listening. Do hard shit.
Stay uncomfortable, baby.
Carry the boats. And don't eat Ralph's crispy, crunchy chicken.
Only eat the grilled.
Yeah. Anywho, thanks for listening again. We will be trying to upload every week or 2 weeks, depending on our schedules. So, thanks again.
Peace.